it's Latin, so forgive me for my pronunciation, but esse quam verde, and it means to be rather than to appear to be. And I found that kind of apropos, just because this is part of the exercise. Yeah.
Well, I had an idea after going out to New Glasgow last week that I wanted to run by you, not necessarily as a proposal, but as a sort of a thinking experiment. It occurred to me, especially after having been there, and I've been there before, that so much of the experience of the Preserve Company is tied up in the place.
Physical, yeah.
I mean, yes, the product is good and it's made with care, and there's a people aspect which is inseparable from the place. But if you are just from the outside world and you come to preservecompany.com,
Yeah.
there's nothing there. I mean, without if you've been there before, it's like it's a memory device that fires all sorts of things, and that's great. And I was reading Monocle magazine this week, and which is a sort of a weird European magazine for people who I don't know. There's people who buy Cartier watches.
Yeah, yeah.
But there was an ad for a coffee place called, I can't remember the name of the coffee place, full page ad, and it said, to request a free sample of our single estate coffee, go to this web address. And you went there, and it was essentially a sort of it wasn't or at least it didn't appear to be sort of a multi-level marketing pre-qualification process. It was, you were applying for access to their store. And if you got access to their store, then that gave you access to the free sample, but also the ability to buy and the ability to participate in their their community.
Mm-hmm.
And it occurs to me that we've been talking about those 10,000 people who give you their email addresses as though, they're just sort of one aspect of Bruce's online marketing effort. And you might send them some email, and you're sensitive to sending them marketing messages, and you want to engage them somehow. Mm-hmm. I wonder what would happen if you changed your point of view so that those 10,000 people became the core of your online world, because they've been there. Mm-hmm. And so that's, they've got that thing. You don't have to convince them that it's wonderful. They already know it's wonderful. Yeah. They know it's wonderful so much that they gave you their private personal email address to communicate with them. Yeah. So I'm not necessarily suggesting that you shutter the front of the website and say, to gain access here, enter your Bruce MacNaughton's secret decoder ring number. Yeah. But maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
But and it's interesting, just once I sort of conceived of everything you were doing online as having, basically, of being in service to that 10,000 group, as opposed to being in service to the entire, the billions of dollars of spreadable fruit market in the world.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden your perspective narrows, and everything that you're doing then becomes far more personal in a good way.
Yeah.
Because, if something in the store is broken, well, it's just, some people in somewhere who probably aren't going to order anyway are going to be bothered. Well, no. It's Millie, who visited the store, gave us her email address, is not going to participate today.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. There's a, I wish I could remember the name, but I was reading recently about a jewelry store, so let's say something similar to Tiffany's, in that they're very much going up to the high end of the market, but you're not accepted into their web store without first going through almost a credit check. That I'm using that for easy analogy, but it might not be so much of a credit check as to answer all the right questions, and bingo, you get the secret password to come in and look, right? So.
And I think, in many ways, I think in this coffee company's case, this was done, going back to your quote, it was done in a sort of an artificial way, I think, to sort of create an illusion of scarcity.
Yeah.
But I don't think you need to treat it that way.
Yeah. No, I'm really appreciative of even this process. Once we get it posted up on the front page of our website, it'll be neat to see the comments we get back. We would like to invite those 11,000 people into the conversation, so we're just getting the technical side behind it organized. But it was interesting, even since the last conversation, to receive that lovely email from Sue in Australia. Yeah. Hi, Sue. So, she inspired me by what she wrote, so much so that it was good for me. So I've promised her that I will kayak over to Governor's Island next year and pick wild strawberries and video it for her, and then send her a little jar of the wild strawberry preserve that she read about in the Anakin Gables book.
Right.
So it was kind of neat to see all those dots connected, and so I'm looking forward to next June,
Well,
July.
it's funny because in the video that we shot last week out in New Glasgow, several people have commented to me on the web and in various places about the beautiful PEI scenery in the video, and I thought we'd shot it indoors. And then I realized, because Jane Boyd from Vancouver put in the time code of the scenery. The scenery is me panning around the dining room looking outside at Prince Edward Island. So if that is enough to stir the heart of someone,
Yeah.
frozen New
Yeah.
Glasgow in the middle of winter, then
Yeah.
there's something to that, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think the first thing we'll do in the spring is get a webcam wired up at that end of the building. Definitely, 24/7. Yeah.
I guess well, tell me where you're at, I guess, without necessarily going into technical details in terms of your notice board and your web store and all of that.
Yeah. Well, I think we're just at the very beginning of this process. I've been hearing sort of a wee bit from people as well who've been watching it, but who've not made comments online and so on and so forth. So I realize we're doing this, but I almost forget that we're doing it, until it's time to do it again.
Still someone says, I saw you on TV.
Yeah,
On
exactly.
the internet.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess where I'm at is this is part of the learning process. I went to a little seminar on Friday afternoon, on social media. So this person certainly had passion for it, and she was, I'm going to say young 30s, and
PEI being PEI, I know that you were there because someone else who was there mentioned it to me.
No way. Yeah, well, I had a lot of fun, but I tend to get in a group setting, and I tend to be a bit of a card. I was always the clown joker, or the class joker, so I had some fun at it, and I did learn, some things. So I'm looking at and trying to understand more about social media, and it's changing as we speak. I mean, Google has announced this morning that, they're looking at, or yesterday, but it's certainly on the wire this morning, that they're looking at introducing components of social media to the Gmail. So it's going to be interesting to see how that game all sort of morphs itself, and Yelp and Microsoft trying to buy Yelp, and then Google upped it, and they still said no. So anyway, it's always a moving game. But what I found at the social media event was that, this is a constructive thing, which I will share with the organizer, is that other than doing an introductory, hello, my name is, and this is what I do, we weren't given the opportunity to exchange information or cards.
To be social.
To be social,
Yeah.
right. So I just found that kind of interesting. It's not a critique of the organizer by any means, but it's been making me think a little bit. It's interesting how we propose to be social online, but yet maybe we could improve our social skills within a true social setting. Yeah.
So tell me more. The term social media is not a term that I tend to use very much,
Yeah.
but can you tell me what the workshop was about?
It was a beginner's workshop, so I think it was designed to help people to maybe just to get a little taste of what Facebook can do or is about, and what Twitter is about, and so on and so forth. So it's either going to take those who are at the beginning class to sort of dig in and jump in and and determine whether those tools are something that they want to use on a daily basis or not. So I'm going through that right now. I'm kind of looking at it and trying to determine how it would fit into what it is we may or may not want to do based on what we hear back from people.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess again, just to sort of go back to the conception of how the Preserve Company online community exists, it seems to me that when you think about social media, it's far more exciting again to sort of think of a smaller group of more closely connected people who have this shared physical experience, and using sort of overlaying social media on top of that, because it's like everyone, they've sort of pre-selected themselves out of all the people in the universe by, for some reason, ending up in New Glasgow PEI. And they all have that in common. And it's not as though that's for some people, it's just they waited in the car while their partner went in, but for other people, it's likely quite a profound experience, and to be able to share that experience with other people. it seems like that's a far more interesting use of social media tools than just sort of Bruce tweeting, "Hey, I'm in the car this morning.
Yeah.
Hey, I
Yeah.
made some dinner this morning."
Yeah, no, and I find that a total waste of my time. If I see someone for LinkedIn, for example, you know, people will ask me to join, and or vice versa. I might invite a friend, and I'll receive a notice that somebody who's part of this LinkedIn group is homemaking cereal for the kids.
Right.
And I'm thinking, that is so not LinkedIn, right?
Well, LinkedIn is an interesting example because LinkedIn is very, if you compare it to Facebook and Twitter, where it's sort of anyone can be your friend, and they sort of, their models to try and get you to have as many friends as possible. LinkedIn actually sort of almost takes the opposite tack, which is don't friend anyone who's not actually your
Right.
actual contact, or you don't have some relationship with otherwise.
Yeah.
And I think that means that you can rely upon the sort of the network diagram of LinkedIn much more seriously.
Yeah. It all comes down to etiquette, right? And but this whole thing is certainly, I would think, for anybody in their 30s and 40s and 50s that are perhaps overwhelmed by it, because it's coming like a wave. It's really just to get in and understand it, and whether it's applicable to you or not, and that's all I'm doing. So I'm just in the research stage, sort of, to decide whether it's for me. And I certainly don't want to. I don't think anybody'd be interested to know what I'm doing after I wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, having my porridge, you know. But it's an interesting. I think it has some interesting applications to a like-minded community. Seth Godin wrote a book which I haven't read yet, and called Tribes. So I understand that the premise of that is that we are all, in one way or another, connected through either belief structure or commonality of something and so on. So, you know, maybe Prince Edward Island Preserve Company has its own tribe, you know.
I'm sure that it does.
Yeah. And so I like to figure out how do we connect that tribe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because I'm a technologist at heart, I think I tend to view these challenges through that lens. And you know, one of the things I think is interesting is with your web effort now, you have a buying environment and you have a other environment. So you're using WordPress for your other.
Yep.
And you know, when you do something like, you know, WordPress can be many things, but it's primarily a publishing platform. And it's not primarily, although it has aspects of it, it's not primarily a community platform. So that may, you know, as things evolve in your thinking, it may not be the right tool to fit that job, because it may very well be that the sort of the digital real estate of preservecompany.com works differently than the physical preservecompany.com, and it's not all about Bruce talking to people.
No.
It's about not only about Bruce listening to people, which is important, and you know, Bruce's people listening to customer people, but it's also about those people talking amongst themselves in a way that probably they wouldn't be able to do in any other medium. You know, if I visit the Preserve Company in June and someone visits in July, we have no way to talk except maybe through something. You know, it's an open question as to whether people would really want to do that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. You know, we've just paid the check. Wrote. You know, did this. What is this for us? Web 3 or Web 4?
Yeah.
So of course we can't jump ship and start all over again.
No, but
Yeah,
and
but-
you know, again, it's certainly conceivable to make tools, you know, to sort of make a tool like WordPress into something more like that.
Yeah.
And so the you know, the usual blog metaphor of sort of a blog and then little comments can be sort of turned upside down, and so you sort of you ignite things, and then this comments sort of, you know, you don't even think of them as comments, you think of them as the conversation or
Exactly.
people taking over for their own.
And that's what I'm hoping we can do. So that's, you know, right now on the front page of the website, there's a notice board there that I'm not quite sure how it fully operates, or if it does operate. So we'll be having that discussion after we leave this conversation.
Yes.
I've emailed them this morning to meet about this, but I really do want at the front door of our website the opportunity for people to say what experiences they've had or are having, and good, bad, or ugly. So you know, we do want it out there. We do want to be transparent.
And you know, it just occurs to me that maybe the name should be changed from notice board to
Yeah.
listening post, or
Yeah, I like that.
just something that indicates that this is not just here's what's on sale, or
No, I know. I've never really been comfortable with the term. So, yeah, no, I agree. Listing post.
I mean, the other thing that
Can I use that?
yes.
Okay, good.
The other thing that comes out of our conversation last week is we were talking about the being bad. I think you said this in the video introduction you had for the website. You were talking about being bad at sending out email newsletters to people who subscribe to email newsletters, and you talked about part of the reason for that is that you didn't want to send out something that said buy now.
Right.
And it occurred to me that, I know what you meant by that. And I don't like getting email that is just sort of crassly, buy 7 of these and get 3 of these and it's free shipping. But at the same time, I think it's important not to lose there's nothing wrong with people buying. And in fact, they're buying a fantastic product that we can all be proud of. So,
Yes, yeah.
so I think we don't want to get sort of trapped in this model where what we're doing online, like commercial is bad, and that we have to sort of have this parallel universe that doesn't actually exist, where people engage in commercial-free relationships.
Yeah.
Like I think for a lot of people, myself included, the experience of the product, when I buy it, especially when I'm buying your product, I'm buying it from you, which is supporting you, and it's supporting your family, and it's supporting your employees, it's supporting island producers, it's supporting the glass mills. So yes, we don't want to turn this into a multi-level marketing newsletter, but at the same time, I think that talking about product is not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. It just has to be a little richer for me personally. Just so, 5 years ago, everybody, not everybody, but certainly people were accustomed to eating milk chocolate. Well, now people can discern between milk chocolate and dark chocolate, and you can even slice and dice dark chocolate into
75, 80, 90.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I just want to enrich the experience to the dark chocolate level.
Sure.
Right? So there's a whole lot of reasons why the emails haven't been sent out, but that's probably been the lag has been. I haven't put a big push out there because I don't want to start waving flags or something a flag I'm not really comfortable waving.
Sure.
So I'm just hoping that within the next, we're now middle of February, so I'm hoping that we send out something, by the 1st of March that allows people to double opt-in, and when they come back to look and decide whether they want to be part of what it is we're doing, then they can opt in. And if they don't, then they're off the list. But I would like to get the list down to the foundation level, and then from there sort of build the conversation somehow. So some of the things we're looking at doing this summer is, because we've had so much fun, if you come in the front door of our building, there's a Scottish table there that I bought at a show, and it's made of mahogany, and it's a set of legs, actually interestingly about the same size as mine, and then the table is a facsimile of a kilt. So everybody gets a kick out of it, and I call it my half-brother. So people will stand behind this and put the kilt in front of their 2 legs and get their photograph taken. So I found these, I think they're called Joeys or something, but they're like a Scottish tan with red hair coming out of it. So we bought a bunch of those and put them by the table, and people start putting those on, and everybody's taking pictures, and so much laughter and joy, and to the point of where people were just crying and tears are coming down their face. So our plan is this summer to somehow record that. They're taking the photographs, and we're thinking, let we take the photograph as well, and or become part of it somehow, and post that up either on the company Facebook page and so on and so forth, and use the Facebook tool that people can spin that out to their families and friends and family and friends and say, come look at this, Dad's online wearing this thing, whatever, and then videotaping. We're planning this year to go out and videotape where we purchase our fruit, with the growers and their families, and the process and so on and so forth, so that will be all there for people to see.
Yeah, being able to see that, even doing that starting that now, you know,
Yep.
going out and doing sort of a set of, so what's the year upcoming looking like with your producers, and then being able to sort of, you know, revisit them every month and see the crop come out of the ground. That would be, I think that would be an interesting process to see an empty field, you know, in
Yeah.
April, and then see a bountiful field in August.
That's a good idea, Peter. I think it would be helpful in that conversation where, you know, the big push is buy local, buy local, buy local. And again, that's not really getting to know who the farmer is or understanding what the farmer's dealing with. So I really like that idea, that, you know, it'll be up to the farmers. And I'm not a journalist, so I might not know all the questions that I would want to ask. But I really like that idea, because it'd be right around now that I would think that growers and farmers, that their anxiety levels are starting to rise.
Sure.
Because the weather affects the quality of the plant. Quality of the plant affects the quality of the fruit.
Right.
And I don't see it as much as my problem as they see it as theirs. But their problems can become my problems, and vice versa. So, I mean, last year we only received about 50% of the strawberries that we require. And I don't have the solution yet. And so hence we might go into the season with no strawberry product on the shelves. So we're even considering labeling our product numerically, for that. We'd said last year we would say last year's production included, you know, we only finished with 1,200 jars of da da da, and so we only have 1,200 jars available.
Now, when you say numerically, do you mean this is jar 99 of 1,200?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Yeah. And I think we have the technology to do that.
No, I mean, and that's I mean, that ties very much into my thinking, which is that you are never going to compete with anyone else.
No.
I mean, the
I
way
don't want
that,
to.
yeah, but I mean, if you consider your competitors to be the other people making similar products, you're never going to have the marketing budget, or the, you know, you're never going to be able to buy the Google AdWords to, you know, if someone goes to Google and searches for grape jam or whatever else. So turning your product, I mean, you're not really turning it into it, but you're featuring your product as the high value product that it is. I mean, again, the aha moment for me last week was when you showed me the $15 pot and the thing that you scoop the reserves out of into a bottle. Well, that is sort of counter to my notion of what a jam factory production line looks like.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, that is jar 88 of 100, or you know, jar 120 of whatever it is. And, and that you know, and I guess when you think about the way that e-commerce is traditionally done in that sort of very, you know, broad brush sort of way, that's not really doing justice to the product. It's not a commodity. No. I mean, it's the product of so many people's sweat that that's sort of treated as something that you can just throw up on the internet and sell to the, you know,
sell to the masses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, and we've done a poor job of letting people know really what all goes into our products. It's only when they take a taste, usually, and not always, but certainly 9.8 out of 10 would taste it and go, oh, wow, that's surprising. I remember when we first set up at a farmer's market 24 years ago, and I came in with my little jar, and my jars, and you know, and on either side of me at the farmer's market was other purveyors of homemade jams and pickles and so on and so forth. And, you know, they were selling 1 liter bottles of this stuff for $1.99, whatever, and I came in with my little jar at $5, and I remember, you know, whether I heard them, but I sensed them or felt them, the snickers, the giggles, and so on and so forth. And I just stayed focused on what it is I was doing, and I said, well, just have a taste. And then the expression would change, and then continue to change, and then people started buying the jars and so on. So I think that's the problem with the commodity model. It's always, how do we make it cheaper? And how do we blast the world with more of the same thing? And I think society is getting too mono-focused. You know, you can drive into most cities from the outskirts and you don't know the difference between this town and that town because of all the national chains and so on and so forth. So I think it's very, very important that we focus and respect and honor and celebrate our arts and our cultures and our differences and so on and so forth. So we need to do a better job as a company, as a brand. You know, brand is certainly a corporate term, but you know, to let people know that this is all that goes into what it is we do. So
it all, I mean, my sense for everything in life these days is that it's not as though we need more of everything, both in terms of more physical things, but more information. I think we're coming to the point where everyone is going to be seeking out lessness, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
You know, it even occurs to me that, you know, going to your web store, I'm sort of, you know, you have a lot of product. You have the preserve product, you have the tea product, you have the jewelry product. If I went there and there was one thing for sale, I'd probably buy that. Especially if it was, here's an interview with Buddy the farmer, here's a video of the production line, here's a list of the ingredients, here's the nutritional information, you know, buy one of these. And then, you know, and I'm not necessarily suggesting that you only sell one thing, but that if you know, maybe as a rule, if you look at what you were characterizing as a sort of commodity world and the sort of traditional food production approach, if you just do everything the opposite, you might find, you know, it might end up with an interesting sort of thing.
just be the contrarian. Right?
Yeah.
I just look at artists.
I mean, I emailed you about this yesterday. Again, it's sort of part of experiencing your web store. I went and went through the buying process, got to the end, had put a bottle of preserves in my shopping cart, got to the end, and there was a $14 shipping charge. Now, there's all sorts of reasons for that, I'm sure.
Sure.
It's interesting because, you know, $14 is probably, you know, especially because I could probably drive to New Glasgow and pick it up myself. But I can conceive of a situation where I would consider it worthwhile to spend $14 on a product of yours. You know, if I knew slightly more about it, if it was maybe 50% closer to my heart than it is right now, that doesn't seem unreasonable. So if you could sort of meet me halfway, me representing everyone in your online universe, you know, I think that's I think people will, for something that is, you know, that is special that way. Not, you know, not suggesting you gouge people for shipping, which you're not, but I think when you again, you're not, you know, sort of anything that is like buy this and get this for free, and I mean that's all sort of trickery that I always am under the impression that people engage in because they don't have faith in the goodness of their product, which you do, obviously. So.
Yeah, but freight, I guess two things I'm thinking of is freight can be there's a pain threshold, right? We don't.
I mean, I should add that then I thought, well, maybe if I ordered 2 bottles, the shipping would be the same, and it was. So I can see that.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not sure what that's your psychological model, but
No, it's more, and we could spend hours talking about the shipping rates and so on and so forth. But it's, I guess, two things. One is tied to the technical capabilities of the system. We could get into weighing every jar, the system could calculate the weight of the jar, and then da-da-da-da-da. We just haven't had the manpower to put all that focus in on that side. So we've just gone generically, just created we look every year to say, okay, did we go forwards or did we go backwards, and we're just trying to break even. So I think last year we may have come ahead $500 on $30,000 freight bill. So we're not gouging, and that's not a defensive stance. That's just, I would like to figure out how I can give it away. And but I will share a funny shipping story just for some humor. I had a gentleman call from the States, and it was on the 22nd of December, and he said, I would like to purchase a 1-pound fruitcake, and I need it for Christmas. And I said, well, and this was a few years ago, I said, gee, the fruitcake is only $12, and, you know, I could probably FedEx it to you, but it's going to cost quite a bit. And he said, well, how much is it going to cost? I said, just a moment. So I went, I ain't figured it out. And I came back and said, it's going to be $54, but I can get it to you. He said, I'll take it. I went, wow. I said, this is great. You like our fruitcake? Oh, he said, I like your fruitcake, but that's not the issue. I said, well, what's the issue? He said, my wife had already purchased one. And he said, I hate it. And she doesn't know. So he said, I have to get it back in the house before Christmas Day. So there was a case where freight didn't matter.
Well, I mean, I had not an exactly analogous situation, but I had friends who visited from Germany 2 years ago. One of them bought a Prince Edward Island sweatshirt down on the waterfront.
Right.
Took it back home to actually, I shouldn't say Germany, it's the Netherlands. I'm always getting confused, much to the
Yeah.
Dutch people don't like that.
No,
so,
no.
Anyway, she took it home. Eventually, she was cleaning in it, spilled bleach on it, and ruined it. So her partner, knowing this and knowing her birthday was coming up, got in touch with me and said, "Can you go down to the waterfront and buy a Prince Edward Island sweatshirt for her and FedEx it to her?" And I said, "Well, I mean, the sweatshirt's going to be $30. The FedExing, because her birthday was like on the weekend, is going to be $90 or something." And he said, "No, go ahead. Like it's important enough to her." This
Sure.
thing. And again, that's about Prince Edward Island. Like that's not, they wouldn't do that if they bought it at Old Navy or something.
No, exactly. Yeah. I think I'm speaking at a food thing on Thursday in Moncton. And something's going through my mind that I'm going to experiment with. And perhaps anybody who may be listening to this could do the same, but there's going to be 50 to 60 people there. And I'm going to ask them all to stand up and point to another person at the other side of the room. And sit down. Then I'm going to ask them to point to themselves. And invariably what will happen is that everybody will point at everybody's head. But when we sit down and point to ourselves, we usually point to our heart. So that's where the connection is. Right? It's certainly we can go and say there's logic, and decide that this is the price and da-da-da-da-da. But it's really just to figure out how to let people know and enough about yourself and who you really are and who your company really is that either they connect to it or they don't.
Yeah.
And that's all that we really.
Well, and I think when you're designing an online world for your company and the experiences that go with it, when you visit the facility. Facility seems like such a bad word.
No, I know. Yeah.
When you visit your place in New Glasgow, there's obviously care and attention that's been taken to details. I walk in the door, I don't bang my head on the door. I go and sit in the dining room, I have a beautiful view. The windows are at the right height. So I think there's not really anything different about the online world. It's just a matter of training ourselves to see the sills that we're going to bump into, or making sure that the view is beautiful. So.
Yeah. Well, that's why one of my favorite words is empathy. It's just to understand. Right? If we could, as a world, if we could all spend more time trying to understand each other rather than us barking out trying to be understood, it'd be a different place.
Yeah. And I think, digital empathy, if I can use that term, is not it's not a different new kind of empathy. It's the same old empathy. Yeah. I think part of our problem, especially when you're sort of on the inside of that experience, is being able to see it with the eyes of an outsider. And sometimes that means actually asking people on the outside to go through an experience. But I know, having constructed things, often if I step away from them and then go and try and use them as a regular person would, I can't believe I've constructed something so poorly. Oh, I have to enter my name here again, and then I have to go and click on this email. And, so it's just sort of being able to be analytical in the way that it's so easy to do in the physical world, because we sort of experience it in the same way. So.
Yeah. Just a good habit if we could always try and put ourselves in the other person's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll leave it there for today.
Yeah.